When I say top three, I mean I'm one word. Either you get it or you don't. Simple as that. I'm gonna show y'all why. Let's get it. I just float with it. From what you did, I'm at your throat with it. You can learn something, take a note with it. Dedicated my life, I took an oath with it. For the blood of my brothers, we don't do no switching. I run with who I run with, ain't no clicking. Try me, do you done with no decision. Lead a scene like a Mack truck with four collisions. Clothes everywhere, but they ain't revoke distance. Coming at you loud and direct, I don't do no distance. Don't try this is practice, but it's my risk. I can freeze time, look at my wrist. Bloodline and lion and Judah, I'm hybrid. Cause I'm the go-to. Trying to reign forever, man. Who chose you? Niggas thinking that they high, I say I'm cold too. Never go against the cold or it's cold blue. That's my vibe with it. Y'all 10% of your memory. Hey, times with it. Keep a piece of your essence. So I don't FaceTime with it. If we fall out, I don't burn bridges, I bomb bridges. Can't deny the truth, but greatness fall in line with it. Can't beat us, join us. When West where you find niggas. Rap what I rap about. Don't confuse my squad, nigga. The difference is we know you hope that guy with the fruits of my labor with a banana clip my mind different. You would think that Bitcoin fell the way he stockpiling. Green beans and supersonic grades. I am not owling. Be a high head, get a heat seeker, so stop wilding. Big dog to the little pups, so stop growling. I'm my only competition, there is no challenge. I do this in my sleep, man, I am not lying. Pick a free, pick a choose like a switch to lead. Ain't no up in the score cause we ain't switching leads. Watch who you call your dog and you be picking please. Or get a drum roll like a 2-piece in a biscuit, please. If you ain't got enough strength just to sit with me. On top of the food chain, you can't get with me. Call me to the comment code, you ain't as sick as me. Moses see the way, gotta stamp that, that's what you see. I make everything high. I took a bar off, all I did was breathe. Championship games, I treat them as practice. Look at niggas' career high like, yeah, that's what I average. I do this with my eyes closed and walking backwards. You see, I call them trophies, but you know them as caskets. Everybody energy change up when it's static. T.I. with the fittest, too many ways niggas camping. We taking new soldiers every day, put your app in. Taking new soldiers every day, put your app in. Okay, that's enough. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. They niggas claiming that they bullshit. They niggas better move it coach. And if they get it wrong, move it coach. They see me, they like, ooh, keep on stopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. I'm on my way. Coming up on my bullshit. They see me, they like, ooh, keep on stopping. I'm on my body. Tell niggas right to stop it. Damn right, I brought my army, going up like a rocket. Can't nobody stop me. These niggas got me, so watch your mouth, boy. Coming all black, slithering, house coming out, boy. I'm off the hip like a cowboy. I'm a king, you should bow, boy. Shorty like that, bitch, blood, I can handle. 144 with the one going around, niggas do dirty like a street in a bando. Live in the corner like a bum with a bando. I'ma lead by example. Won't keep on stopping, got this bitch on that. Got this bitch, got this drip, I can hit this bitch with the soul. It ain't rap, this is soul. Can't take some bitch, especially with the coat. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. They niggas claiming that they bullshit. They niggas better move it coach. And if they make them roll, move it coach. They see me, they like, ooh, keep on stopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. I'm on my way. Coming up on my bullshit. I do it how a veteran be. You better than me. I'm Reggie at the edge of the key. It's all money, no honey. Think you settle and see. You locked up, fucked up, and it's back to the streets. It's one west. You can check the residency. I reside with focus cloud on the soles of their feet. Cause it's death before the sun. There ain't no power to me. Cause I'm cold as a bitch's shoulder. You ain't calling a week. And they're looking on his feet. Yeah, like it well done. Got the killers rolling with me. And they all red rum, red rum, red rum. Got you fucking scared, so get the banging on his feet. Till my fucking head numb. Feeling like a legend in this shit, little nigga, I'm past veteran. Never feeling third, little nigga, I'm past second. Guns, I gotta have them all like ass catcher. Shotty break the nigga ribs up like it's white flesh. We all stepping, kill you with kindness cause I'm dead nice. That 5'7" put you 6 feet, that's talking height. That judge giving out 5, what you doing like? These niggas are real GPS, mean right? That's mean right, we build different, you know the vibes. Every something authentic, we know the route. I keep it 144 because I know it's God, know it's hard, you know I'm with animals when we float and ride. We back again, no cash, but now we're camp again. Yeah, they say they must smoke until we mention them. Everything righteous, so you know when we get back at them, you get hit up with a K, but no acronym. They say they want to hit it raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move the coach. If they make it wrong, move it coach. See me like, ooh, keep on stopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop me. Say they want to hit it raw shit. I'm on my way. Coming up on my double shit.
Hey, Shalom Israel. Y'all got trying to strap rock and thumb to all the brothers. And y'all Shamar with them by trying to strap to all the sisters in the nation of Israel. This is the application Chicago Washington for Dodge class. Bear with me for a second. Yes, like I was just saying, this is the Isupk Chicago Washington Kadash class. Priest and officer of 5,000. Kawam on the box currently holding down the class down tonight. All right. What I always do at the very beginning of every class, I always go over the Washington Kadash chart. So that's what I'm going to do right now. All right, so if you don't have a copy of this large form Dodge chart, I can get one on over to you. If you just put your email in this class, so that way I can know who needs it. On this chart, it says large form Dodge. It is translated as holy tongue, and we read and we write in this holy tongue from the right hand side towards the left. Now, what does that mean? It means we read it from the right hand side towards the left, and we also write it out in that exact same way. All right. So these are the ancient Paleo Hebrew letters up here at top. This is what came right after the Semitic letters. You got the Semitic Hebrew letters. You got the Paleo, and then you also have the Mono Hebrew, which is the Syrian Hebrew down here at the bottom. All right, this is the newest version of Hebrew right here, as far as how the letters have changed over the generations. All right, so this here is what is known as La Shah One Quadash. All right, there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. I'm going to say each and every letter singularly by itself, so that way you can have an idea of what they sound like. All right. So the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet is pronounced as then Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Cha, Ta, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa, I, Pa, Taza, Kwa, Ra, Cha, Da. All right. So the pronunciation for the ancient Hebrew is the exact same for the Syrian down here at the bottom. You understand? These 5 letters down here that are part of the same letters is that if any of these if any of these 5 letters up top happens to fall at the end of a word, then this would be the formation which you put at the end. All right. So in today's class, I'm going to be going over some practical basic things as it pertains towards the Hebrew. Nothing advanced, just practically just practical things. As you see up there on the board, it says nouns. A noun is a person, place, or thing. Nouns can be feminine or masculine in gender, and it can be either singular or plural. All right, so let me go in a little bit into that on today's class. All right, so let's see about this right here. All right, there we go. All right, so as you see right there, it says noun is a person, place, a thing. It can be either feminine or masculine gender, and it can be singular or plural. All right. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some common nouns up on the board. These are just going to be some examples of what nouns are. So one noun could be Abba, which means father. It has a noun. It goes back right up towards the top. What I said earlier, a noun is a person, place, or thing. All right. Then we also have Amma, which means mother in Hebrew. We also have Ban, which means son in Hebrew, which is also a noun. And now we also have Layla, which means night in Hebrew. We also have Yad, which means hand in Hebrew as well. That's also another noun. We also have the word Dam, which means blood. That's also another noun. All right. We have Pa, which means mouth. Mouth is a noun. It is something that you can possess. We also have Sham, which means name in Hebrew. And these are just some examples of what nouns are in what you see up here on the board. We're going to be going over nouns, how you can better see how in the scriptures, or if you want to write it on out, as far as to identify which words are feminine, which ones are masculine, and how you can better identify which ones are plural and which ones are singular. In the way in which the way in which you can identify them. So that's what we're going to be going over in today's class. All right. So if anybody just wants to copy this information on down, I'm gonna give y'all some time on that right now. All right. Twelve.
Come, sir.
All right. All right. So masculine plural endings have yum at the end. And I'm going to go ahead and show y'all some examples of these right now. So I'm going to be writing some nouns out up in the board. I'm going to do the 2 and 2. the singular version of the noun is going to be on this side. The plural version is going to be on this side. So we're going to say, as far as the words son, we're going to say son, and then we're also going to say books. All right. And then I'm going to put apostrophe s here. That's going to be for the plural. Son and book is going to be singular. The apostrophe s is going to be for the plural on this side. All right. So son in Hebrew is known as ban. Book. Well, let me finish with son first. All right. So we got ban, which is son. Now, if we want to say sons plurally, it's like it. Then we would just add the yum at the end of it to where it be banyam. All right. And that's exactly what it would look like. All right. So it would be banyam. And what can easily help you out in this class is to just look up based off what I put up on the board to help guide you in what you would need to know to put next. All right. There's a reason why we call this our school or universal practical knowledge, because the things that we teach are very practical. We build everything up towards what to the point in which you can be able to understand of exactly what you need to know based off the information that we display before you beforehand. All right. So right here where it says masculine plural endings, it has yum at the end. So all of these nouns which I'm about to put up on the board, as far as for what I'm doing right now, it's gonna have yum at the end in the way in which you're gonna make these words plural. All right. So that was for sons. Now for book. We're gonna have, let's see, Sapar. Now it's going to be Sapar Young. All right. So now it's books with apostrophe s, which is Sapar Young. Just like how in English when we say words like let's say kids or cars, anything with apostrophe s, the Hebrew version of the apostrophe s is yum. All right. So always remember that. Anytime we say Akim, that means brothers in the Hebrew. When we say Awakian, that means sisters in Hebrew. And I'm also get to the feminine version of how you make words plural in the Hebrew from the feminine standpoint. All right, so these are just two examples of how masculine, and these are masculine nouns right here, son and book. You understand? Usually most words in the Hebrew that are feminine in gender usually have a ha at the end. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this up on the board for just a brief moment. I'm gonna come on back. All right.
Yes, sir.
You got a question?
What's the title unit? Because I can't bring it up on Facebook.
Isupk Chicago Hebrew language class. All right.
You just put it on the Hebrew language.
Isupk Chicago Hebrew language class. Okay, go to the Windy City page. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase this. I'm gonna go ahead and put up two more examples up here on board now. So now the next one, we're gonna have man, and I'm gonna have word, and now I'm gonna put apostrophe s. It's like another apostrophe s. It's gonna be men. Some words in Hebrew, some words in Hebrew, it's like some nouns in general can be plural naturally as well. Like we don't say mans, we say men, because there are nouns that are just naturally plural like that. All right. So I'm gonna put apostrophe s for words. We got men for man, plurally. So for man in Hebrew, that is going to be Ayash. All right. All right. So we got Ayash in Hebrew, which means man. Now we're going to make it plurally from man to men. All right. And men in Hebrew is going to be Anashim. All right. Now for word in Hebrew is going to be the bar. Now for words with apostrophe S, it's going to be the bar yum. All right. So there's that yum right there. All right. And these are all masculine words on which I'm putting up on the board, making it from singular to plural by simply adding a yum, because masculine plural endings have yum at the end. All right. I'll leave that up on the board for everybody to have that just for a brief moment. Meanwhile, if anybody online that's watching the class live now, if you have any questions at all, you can chime in and ask some questions as it pertains to the class. All right. Okay, we go. All right. So masculine plurals usually have waf at the end, which is usually used for feminine nouns. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and dive into that. All right. So as far as the first word, we're going to say father, and then apostrophe S with fathers. And then we're going to say name, then apostrophe S with names. All right. So father in Hebrew is pronounced as Abba. Now with apostrophe S plurally, because father is a masculine noun, all right, but it's going to have a feminine plural ending. You understand? There are some instances in the Hebrew to where you see masculine nouns with a feminine plural ending. All right, and this is one of them. So this here will be pronounced abawaf. All right, and that is pronounced as fathers in Hebrew. Now for name in Hebrew is pronounced as shum, and plurally it will be pronounced as shumawaf. All right, and notice this. Ma is open and this one here is closed because it goes back towards what I said at the very beginning of the class as to where if ma happens to fall at the end of a word, then it will be closed because that would be its final form. But if it's not at the end of the word, then it would be open because that would be its regular form. All right. So we both have father and name, both singular and plural. And then again, I'm going to say that some masculine nouns, when you make them plural, when you see them plural, they will usually have a feminine plural in it. All right, and that does not make that word feminine as well. All right. I'm going to provide two more examples of how you would see masculine nouns having a feminine plural ending. I'm going to say place and then voice, and with apostrophe s and apostrophe s. Now, for place in the Hebrew, it is pronounced as makor wam. So we have makor wam, which is place. And if you want to say from place to places with apostrophe s, then it'll be pronounced as makor wam waf, which would be places. All right. So now for voice in the Hebrew is pronounced as kowal. So we have kowal and kowal plurally for voice to make it from voice to voices with apostrophe s. Then we're just going to add the waf at the end. And in this case, it will be pronounced as Kwawa Lawaf. All right. Kwawa Lawaf, which means voices. And for voice singularly, it would just be pronounced as Kwawa. All right. So this is just another example of how you would see slacking. This is just another example of how you would see masculine nouns with feminine plural endings. And I'm going to underline it for you. All right. That waf at the end as a feminine plural ending is sometimes is what will be attached towards a noun that will be masculine in some cases. All right. All right, so you have most feminine nouns that have plurals that end in waf. All right. All right, so I'm going to say law, for an example. Law is a feminine word in the Hebrew, just as well as spirit. All right. And law in the Lashon Kadash, it is pronounced as tha or wa. All right, tha or ra. Now, I'm going to say law to laws with apostrophe s, then you add the waf at the end, which is going to make it to a longer word. And this will be pronounced as tha wa ra waf. Tha ra wa waf. All right. Now, for spirit in the Hebrew, it is pronounced as wawak. It is pronounced as rawak. All right, so let me actually spell it out for you as well. Rawak. All right, rawak. And then for law, it's pronounced as tha or ra. 3-syllable word. Law in Hebrew is pronounced as thra. It's like a tha ra. And spirit in Hebrew is pronounced as rawak. All right. And when you add law plurally, when you add the waf at the end, it is pronounced as tha or waf. All right. Now for spirit plurally, I'm going to add the waf at the end as well. All right. And it's pronounced as Rawak Kawaf, which means spirits, plurally. All right. So most feminine nouns have plural endings that end in waf. It's singular version without the apostrophe s. Without the waf, it's just what it is. You understand? It's just singular, a singular feminine noun. But when you make these singular feminine nouns plurally with the apostrophe s, then you add the waf at the end, just like what I just did. All right. So I'm going to leave this up in the board. I'm going to provide 2 more examples of how it would look like. All right. So today we're dealing with nouns, maybe Lord allow in the midst of classes as well, and may dive into verbs, which are action words. But for right now, I'm just dealing with the nouns, which is a person, place, a thing, and how in the Hebrew, when you look these words up, or just see them, when you have the Tanakh and look at them in the Hebrew, you can better know exactly what you're looking at and know which words in Hebrew are feminine, which words in Hebrew are masculine, which ones are plural, and which ones are not. You understand? Because this will help you out a lot when you read Hebrew. All right. Bottom bar. right, so I'm gonna go ahead and write two more examples up on the board. This one here is going to be, this one here is going to be, let me see. This one here is going to be commandment. All right. And this here is going to be mothers. It's like a mother. So we had commandment, and then we also have mother. All right. So commandment in Hebrew, it is pronounced as tazawah. It's like a ma tazawah. Ma tazawah, which is commandment. We want to say commandment because commandment is a feminine noun. All right, so it by being a feminine noun, we're going to make this feminine noun from singular to plural. What we're going to do, we're going to add the waf at the end. All right. All right, so now it is ma tazawaf. All right. So that's the way in which you just did it. Sometimes for some words that have a ha at the end, you can just replace it and then just add the tha when it has the waf right there next to it. All right. So we have ma. Let me write this out as well. We have ma tazawaf. Which is commandments. All right. And for mother in Hebrew, that is pronounced as Amma. And now we're going to add Amawaf at the end. And it's just like that. All right. So we have Amma for mother, and now we have Amawaf for mothers, plurally with apostrophe S. All right. We have commandment, which is Matazawaf, and then commandments with apostrophe S, which is pronounced as Matazawaf. All right. I'm going to leave this up in the board for just a brief moment before I dive into the next thing. All right. You want to call car? I am boss, sir. All right. Actually, I'm going to keep this up in the board. Still need to use this format right here. So let me put this back up. All right, so remember that most feminine nouns that have plurals usually end in waf, but also sometimes they also end in yum as well, which is normally used for masculine nouns. All right. So I'm going to erase most and put some. Some feminine nouns that are plurals that in and yum. All right. So some feminine nouns that are plurals that in the yum, which is used for masculine nouns. All right. And I'm going to provide two examples up in the board. We have woman. Then we also have city. All right. Both of these words here are both feminine nouns. All right. So I'm going to write woman up in the board, which is pronounced as a sha. So we have a sha, which is woman. Now, if we want to say women, let me get rid of this S and then just write woman. Because, like I said earlier, some words that are nouns are just naturally plural. All right, which doesn't have the necessity to have the apostrophe S at the end. And this is one of them. All right, so we have woman, and then we also have women. Now, woman is a noun plural in and of itself. We're just going to have the yum at the end. All right. So I guess nah. Look at this. All right, so women in Hebrew is pronounced as nashiyam, and woman is pronounced as a sha. All right. Now for city in Hebrew is slacking. I'm writing the Palo version of it. It is pronounced as ayar. All right, that is pronounced as ayar for city. Now, if you want to write cities, and then again, I need to get rid of this S because you don't put apostrophe S at the end of city. You just say cities, which is a noun that is plural in and of itself. And it is pronounced as Ibrahim. All right. So we have Ibrahim, which is cities, which is a plural version of the singular version of city, which is pronounced as Ayar. All right. And then we have woman, which is a sha, and then woman, which is nashiyam. All right. So this yum here is an underlined it is a masculine plural ending that is sometimes used for feminine nouns, and what you just see here. So there are sometimes, at some points, instances in the scriptures in which you will read it or look at it in the Hebrew, and you'll see a feminine noun like woman or city, which would be a feminine noun that will have a masculine plural ending. You understand? So this is just for some feminine nouns, not for most. All right. So I'm gonna leave this information up here on the board for just a brief moment. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase this one off the board. All right. So a few nouns have two plural endings. One is yum, and the other one is waf. All right. So I'm going to say, for example, generation. And this here also doesn't matter whether if it's feminine or masculine. You understand? Some feminine and masculine nouns can be able to have both, in which is saying right here. All right. All right. So we got generations and generation. We also have year and years. All right. So I'm going to write the singular version of them both up first. So generation is pronounced as the war. And then we also have year in the Hebrew, which is pronounced as Shana. All right, so we got Shana, which is year. Then we also had the war, which is generation. Now we're going to go ahead and make them plural. And by using these two plural endings right here. All right. So for generation, we had the war in its singular version. And then, in this plural version for the generations, we have the war yum and then the war waf. Same thing for year. Year in Hebrew is pronounced as shana. When you say shana, plurally in Hebrew, it's pronounced as shana yum or shana waf. All right. So some nouns, either it could either be feminine or masculine. You understand? They could have both in it sometimes, in which you would see. All right. And these are just two examples. All right. But nonetheless, anytime we see yum or waf at the end of a word, you already know automatically that that word is plural. All right, so that should be the first thing that should come in your mind when you're looking at the Bible. When you look at it in Hebrew, when you say, when you see yum or waf at the end of the word, you already know that that word is plural. So by the time when you read that same scripture in English, you're going to see how it would say books, apostrophe s, or words, apostrophe s, because you're seeing how when you looked at this in class, when you looked at yum, when you seen waf, you know that that word is plural. All right. I'm gonna give everybody some time to write the information down on the board. Not gonna come right back on up. All right. So there are some nouns that are either feminine and masculine that does have both endings. All right. Okay. So right now I'm gonna write the diagram out. I'm gonna write this out and make it as simple as possible for everyone. All right. So this diagram here should be easy for everybody to understand. For masculine nouns, there is no particular ending at the end of it. It just its original root form. You understand? But masculine nouns that are made plural will have them. Feminine words, feminine nouns will have ha at the end the majority of the time. And then feminine nouns that are plural will have waf at the end. It's just that simple. All right. All right. So masculine nouns have no distinctive ending. It just is original root form. All right. So for example, we're gonna say ba, which is father. You don't see no ha, you don't see no yum, you don't see no waf. It's the original root form. You understand? And that is also sometimes indicated that is a masculine noun. Now you do have some feminine nouns that doesn't have the huh and it's still feminine. You understand it? That's just the way that it is. All right. But for a lot of nouns that are masculine, it would just be by itself. You understand? And it's an original root form. So I'm gonna just leave this up on the board for everybody to write this one down. All right. All right. Nouns that occur in pairs, usually parts of the body, have dual and is written as young. All right. So I'm going to make this as easy as possible to understand. We're going to have our singular form, then we're going to have a plural form. All right. All right. So we're going to have ear, and then we're also going to have hand. All right. And then ears, and then hands. All right. Well, for this one, I can put apostrophe S here. So let me just do it like that to conserve some more space. All right. So ear in Hebrew is pronounced as azan. And then if you want to say ears, then it would be azan young. All right. All right. So anytime we have a pair of anything, it's like a pair of gloves, pair of hands, eyes, ears, feet, it is always going to end in yum because that is a dual endings. Because dual endings are endings that end in yum for anything that has a pair. You understand? So you can have a pair of socks. You understand? It would have yum at the end of it. You can have a pair or whatever the case. Anything that is a pair, it's going to end with yum at the end. All right, just to put it in Latin terms. All right. So hand is yod in Hebrew, and then we're gonna have yada yum, which is gonna be hands. All right. Let me fix that real quick. An easy way to be able to pronounce words in the Hebrew when you see words like this is for you to know that nouns usually contain to two to three to four words. You understand? In its original root form, just like how you see right here. This noun right here, ear, which is pronounced as a zon, is a three-letter word. You understand? There will be rarely times to where you will see nouns that will contain a 5 or 6 letter word because words in English that is translated over into the Hebrew contains less letters. All right. So let's say for an example, I always use this example all the time. So let's say for an example, a house. House has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. Now, when I translate it over into the Hebrew, it has 1, 2, 3 letters. Letters from the English that is translated over to the Hebrew contains less letters. You understand? And those less letters is what makes it simple to pronounce words in the Hebrew. When you pronounce words in English, you have more vowels that will come out of your mouth to make it much more longer. Which is why for people that comes from overseas or even our brothers and sisters over in Panama, Guatemala, Jamaica, you understand that learn English, it takes a little bit longer for them because there's vowels that is incorporated into that language, in which you see that it has more letters than it does with the Hebrew. Hebrew is the world's first language. That's where there's really there are no vowels in it at all. Considering how you would see, let me move the camera over here. Considering how you would see, um, where is it? Considering how you would see the I and the you understand, which is practically just it. But anytime when you translate anything from the English to the Hebrew, you're also going to have less letters when you translate it. You understand? So always remember that. All right. So as far as for nouns that have dual endings, that they are written with yum at the end of it. All right. So if you have a pair of eyes, a pair of ears, pair of feet, you understand, a pair of hands, they will always have the yum at the end of it. Anything that has a pair will have a yum at the end of it. That is what is known as dual endings. All right. So let me finish writing this up on the board. All right. And that is that. So I'm leaving that up on the board for just a brief moment. Let everybody cut that information on down. I'll be right back on up there. All right. All right, so I'm going to provide two more examples with with nouns that with nouns that can have dual endings, and then these are only nouns that can contain to be a pair. You understand? If I put it simply, so now, so any noun that you can think of that can be a pair that is known that. Let me start back from the top. Any noun that can have that can be considered to be a pair will always have a dual ending. All right. So I'm going to put this up in the board. I'm going to put wing, and then apostrophe S for wings. And then I'm going to put horn, and then apostrophe S for horns. For example, a ram can have horns. You understand? And even also a goat. All right. A lot of people don't know for the tribe of Ephraim is their symbol is a unicorn. You understand? A real unicorn is not a unicorn that is a horse that has one horn. A unicorn is a goat or a goat or a ram that has two horns that form into one horn. That's what a real unicorn is, and it's very rare to find a creature like that, and that's a symbol for Ephraim. You understand? So any ram or goat that has two horns, that is known as a dual ending that has a yum at the end. So let me do horn right now. Let's see what's that. So this is pronounced as one. All right, Quran, which means horn. Now I'm going to say horns, in which it will be pronounced as qua. Let me see where it's at. It will be pronounced as qua Ranayam. All right. Let me fix that a little bit. Fix it again. There we go. All right, so for horns, it is pronounced as qua Ranayam. Now I'm going to do wing. Wing in the Hebrew, it is pronounced as kanap. And then if we want to say wings plurally with apostrophe S, then it'll be pronounced as kanapium. All right, so kanapium is wings in the Hebrew. All right, so pretty much anytime we have a noun that can be made into a pair, it is also going to have a yum at the end of that. So always remember that. All right, so nouns that occur in pairs, usually parts of the body, have dual endings written as yum. All right, so that goes for words such as ears, hands, wings, shoes, eyes, horns, feet, lips. Any pair that can be any noun that can be considered as a pair will always have yum at the end when you see a plural or when you want to make a plural. All right. and those are called dual endings. Okay. All right. So the vast majority of nouns are derived from verbs. All right. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. So we have I wak, which means bird in Hebrew. It comes from the verb I wak. It's the same word, akin, wakin. It's also going to be the same word. All right. Let me rewrite that. All right. Which means to fly. All right. So this here is the noun. This here is the verb. All right. That's also another thing. When it comes down towards the Hebrew, the word would mean the same thing in the context, and it's also based upon the context. In the Bible, in which you will see one word in one scripture, and another word, and in the same word that would be spelled out like this in the Hebrew, in another scripture. They can, based on the context, it can mean something completely different. All right, you may see I walk in one scripture, and it will mean a bird. You may see a wap in another scripture, and it would basically just mean to fly. And the reason why is because words in the Hebrew, based on whether or not if it's a noun or a verb, can be different in the context. If it's I wap as a verb, then it would mean to fly. If it's I wap as a noun, then that's how you know when you look at it back in the English, it will be talking about a bird. All right. So a lot of times in the scripture too, as well. Um, Like a lot of times when the Lord would say at the very beginning of the scripture, when you're reading the Hebrew, where it would say, Waya Amar or Waya Amar and also Waya Dabar. You understand? Based on the context, and even though those are two different words, even sometimes something like that can confuse somebody. You understand? That's where it would say Waya Amar or Waya Dabar. That's where it would say, and he said, and he spoke, or and he let me just write this up on the board real quick. All right. So a lot of times, most scriptures will start off like this when you read it in the Hebrew. I'm going to write the rest of these on out. A lot of times when you read the Bible in the Hebrew, it will kick off like this a lot of times, which is pronounced as wa, ya, the bar. That's how it's pronounced. All right. Because this here, wa here is a preposition, which is and. And then y'all here is also another position, which is he. All right. Now we have the root word here, which is the bar. Now the bar, in some cases, based on the context, it can mean as a noun and as a verb. Word as a noun and as a verb. Spoke or slash said. All right. And then this noun derives from the word derived from this verb, which means spoke or said. You understand? Because before you said anything or before you speak anything, you first have to have words before you speak. So that's how nouns derive from verbs. All right. So a lot of times when you see the scripture kick off with saying "way at the bar," it just simply saying "and he said" or he spoke. All right. Same thing with Waya Amar. Same thing. All right. So just always remember that. As far as for nouns and verbs, that nouns derive from verbs. We're gonna write some more examples on that. All right. So now we have servant. All right. So we have servant, and servant is pronounced as ibad in the Hebrew. And that's also another thing too as well that I want to bring on out. A lot of people don't know that when it comes to a servant, servant doesn't mean slave. All right. So let me throw that on out there. There's a difference between slave and servant. You understand? Because of course there's a lot of misinformation that's out there for people that comes across this term. All right. So servant doesn't mean slaves. And the difference between slave and servant is completely different. You understand? We as priests and prophets of the Lord's, we are servants, but we're not slaves. A slave is somebody you take forcefully. You understand? Against his own will. A servant is a man who chooses to take up an oath to serve the Most High and to serve his people. You understand? So there's a difference between slave and servant. I just want to throw that one out there. All right. So servant is a noun that derives from the same word, ibad. Which means to serve. All right. It's that simple. All right. I'm gonna write up on the board another word. We're gonna say malak. Malak as a noun means king. All right. And it's a noun that derives from the verb Malak, it's the same word, which means to reign or to rule. All right. So as far as for these as far as these nouns, what you see up on the board, these nouns are derived from verbs. You understand? Iwap, which means bird in the Hebrew, derives from the word Iwap, which means to fly. The word servant in Hebrew, which is pronounced as abad, comes from the verb ibad, which means to serve. Because if you serve, you're a servant. If you well, not in most cases, but most of the things that we see that fly are usually birds, which comes from our verb. You understand? We also have malak, which means king, which derived from its verb counterpart, which means to rule. All right. So always remember that nouns are derived from verbs. You understand? All right. All right. So we're done with this as far as from now knowing that nouns are words that derive from its verb counterpart. And that no word, when you read the Hebrew, is always going to be the same thing when you look at it in a different scripture. All right. So everything is based upon the context in which it's written in. You understand? You may see one word that may mean this in this scripture or in this passage, but by the time you look at that same word in another passage, you end up getting yourself confused as to why it means something different. It's based off what I just said. Words, words based on the context can either be a noun or a verb. All right, in which we just went over. All right. And also too, another good thing for you to have as I bring it on up here now. A real good book for you to have is this Hebrew English dictionary. So that way, this can be able to help you on out as far as from knowing which words are feminine, which words are masculine. If you just want this little extra little whatchamajig right here, this dictionary. But as I write this diagram back up on the board, um, this will also help you on that. All right. Erase that. All right. So based off what I just put up on the board earlier, well, actually, I'm gonna have you come on up here, Carl. Carl, I want you to see if you notice. All right. So I want you to fill this diagram on out. All right. So I want you to start from the top to the bottom.
So masculine.
Masculine nouns, what do they have?
They have the
When you look at a scripture in the Tanakh and Sabbath service, and if you happen to see a word that is just in its regular root form, does it have anything?
la.
It doesn't. So you can leave that blank. All right. So masculine nouns doesn't have anything attached to it. Doesn't have no ha. Doesn't have no plural ending. No waf. No yum. It just in this in this regular root form. All right. So you can leave that blank. So now for now that's plural, and it by being a masculine noun that needs to be made plural. What would that be? If you happen to read this Tanakh and you see a masculine noun that's plural, what would it have?
It will have the yum.
Yum. Because when you say shalom akim, akim is a masculine noun, and it's plural for brother, because its singular form will be ak. So when you say akim, then you add in the plural ending to it. So you put yum up there on the board.
In the Hebrew?
In the modern Hebrew, Syrian Hebrew.
Syrian Hebrew?
God.
Yum. Okay. Here we go.
No, not was. It's yum. And make them letters thicker.
Yum.
Mm-hmm. I had it up on the board the whole class. I don't know if you was paying attention.
I wrote the notes down, but I can't remember right off the bat. So lock it, sir. So yum is
Yeah, and then ma.
in the Syrian, right? I thought I was doing that right. Like
You got the first letter right, but not the second letter.
not the second letter. I'm trying to write it thick, but I don't know what's going on with this one.
There we go. So now you got to write ma, the final form of ma.
The final form, Slovakia. Final form of ma will be
The ma that would be closed. No, that's sa. Ma is like a box. Let me help you out. Let me see that. All right, so this here is, damn, I think it's kind of running out. All right, so this here is yum. All right. And then for our feminine plural, for our feminine singular ending, it would end in ha. All right. And for those of you watching the class live now, and if you're trying to give yourself a Hebrew name without the proper, without first coming to the Isupk and doing your time and getting your Hebrew name, you're gonna end up with a name that's gonna be feminine. You understand? So let's say for an example, heaven. All right. Heaven in Hebrew is Shemayim. All right. Now, Shemayim is a masculine noun. Now, the way in which you want to make it feminine, if you are a sister, you would like a Hebrew name, you can't give yourself a masculine name. You understand? If you're a sister, you understand, you'll want a feminine name with that will usually it's like which will usually most of the time will have a ha at the end. So instead of Shemayim, then you will go ahead and put the ha at the end. Then it would be Shemaya. You understand? Which sounds feminine, doesn't it?
Okay.
Shemaya as opposed towards Shemayim. You understand? And just like how Sisters in the Hood got Mariah. You understand? Or Shana. Or you know, with those at the end of the name. You know, niggas don't got no at the end of the name or I at the end of their name. You understand? Brothers got names in the world like John or Matthew or Tyrone, but sisters got names like Mercedes or Elizabeth, or you know, names like that, names that are feminine. So when you trying to name somebody, you have to name them with a name that's feminine. You understand? So feminine words will have ha at the end. All right. And then masculine, and then feminine nouns that are plural will have waf at the end as well. All right. And then for dual endings is endings that dual endings are endings that will have yum at the end, and these are endings that will belong towards words that are that would be a pair, like a pair of wings, a pair of ears, eyes, feet. Any noun that can be considered to be a pair will have that dual ending at the end, which is yum. All right. All right. So that's it.
Okay, let me get that down.
All right, so always remember that anytime we have part at the end of a word, that word is always feminine. And if it doesn't have it, and if it's just a word that doesn't have no particular ending at the end, the majority of the time, that's a masculine noun. But the way in which you know which words are masculine and feminine, because you can have words that are feminine that don't have the hub, which is why it's good to be able to have tools like this at your disposal for you to go ahead and look up that word and see if it's masculine or feminine. Yeah, you can get something like this off Amazon. All right. So once again, Israel, we always have our classes Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. and our Sabbath service is held from 10 to 12 noon. You understand? So make sure you support the priests and prophets of the Lord on the Isupk on the Convention. Make sure you pay your tithes. That's my time.